What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Coach to Coach podcast. Today, I am doing a solo Q&A. My partner in crime, Joe Brooks, could not make it, so you just got me. So doing a Q&A. Questions were fielded from my Instagram, and so we will get right into it. PJ Paste Fit asks, as a personal trainer, what's your approach on sales and maintaining integrity? So just a language thing here. I'm not actually a personal trainer. I wouldn't call myself a personal trainer. I do still do a little bit of personal training. So like what personal training versus coaching. Okay. So personal training is when you are one-on-one with somebody in person. Okay. You're showing them how to work out. That's a personal trainer, right? Coaching is far more comprehensive than that, where I am not only guiding them and giving a client feedback on how to execute movements. I'm not there with them, but they're sending me videos and I give them feedback on that video. I'm doing programming for them for the training. And I'm also guiding them in their nutrition. And I'm also making changes to the plan kind of week by week or based on when it needs to be changed, right? So coaching is really, honestly, in my opinion, it's more comprehensive than personal training. Like personal training, you're paying me for my time in that hour. Coaching, you have access to me beyond just an hour, so it's actually, honestly, I think most people are going to get more out of coaching than they would personal training. But to answer the question specifically, as a personal trainer, what's your approach on sales and maintaining integrity? At this point in time, I don't really have to sell a whole lot. I've been doing this long enough that word of mouth gets me most of my clientele, word of mouth and referrals. So by the time that somebody reaches out to me for coaching, and inquires about my services, they've pretty much already been sold, because the reason that they know about me is because somebody I work with has told them. I kind of mentioned this on my Instagram. I did like a short answer to some of these responses or some of these questions on Instagram, and I said that what I'm about to say isn't coming from a place of being like cocky or arrogant, but I'm good at what I do. I'm a good coach, and I always try to be better and learn and continue growing, but I'm good at what I do. And when you're good at what you do, your people that you deal with, your clients, they're going to sell for you. They're going to praise you, and they're going to tell the people in their circle about you. And so I don't really have to sell a whole lot. In fact, I don't want to sell. I don't want to have to get into a call. So basically, I have people that are interested in coaching. They come through a questionnaire, then we get onto a phone consult. And in that phone consult, I don't want to try to sell them. I don't want to try to convince somebody that they need me. I want them to be bought in on their own. I want them to arrive to that point on their own, to be completely honest with you. So, that's probably not the best advice for most people, but that's just the truth of where I'm at right now. I don't try to sell people. I want them to just genuinely want to work with me, you know what I mean, on their own accord. And maybe if I were better at selling, then I would, I would have more clients, but I'm not exactly at a point where I need to, just hunt down clients left and right. So yeah, that's kind of that. I guess that's what my answer would be on that. And even like social media, just to get into a little bit more, like my social media, like that is kind of where I can sell people. But my whole social media aim is just simply to provide knowledge and education, and just that's it. I don't want anything in return. I'm just putting out there what I know, my experiences, my thoughts, my opinions, and if that makes somebody want to work with me, then fantastic. And if not, that's cool too. 3 things you'd say to your younger self, from Alex Guns. So one of them would be learn to put distance between impulse and action. Oftentimes, like your initial impulse or your initial knee-jerk reaction is probably not the best thing to do. If you can learn to put distance between that first impulsive reaction and when you actually react, it can be incredibly valuable. And that goes for everything, like not just fitness, but like life life in general. You're an impulsive person, and you just, lash out. You say things that you might not really mean, or that maybe you do mean, but end up just getting you in hot water, right? And they could have been said a different way. Or as it relates to fitness, right? Nutrition, impulse, right? Where you are, your impulse is like, oh, I see a donut, like I'm going to eat it, right? If you can put some distance between the time that thought pops in your head and when you actually do that thing, it can help you to kind of come back to Jesus and make better choices. This is kind of cliche, but trust the process. That's another one. I don't know if I have three. I got two for you, Alex. Trust the process would be another one, but don't trust it blindly. Trust the process, but don't trust it blindly, which I know is kind of like going two different directions. But there's so many things like in life, and not just with fitness, where you're not going to see the results right away. You're trying to build muscle. You're not going to see it right away. You're trying to tuck away savings, or you're trying to, build an education, like so many things in life. You're going to have to trust the process. And if you don't trust that process, where that leads you is doubt, second guessing, and ultimately spinning your wheels, because you're going this way, and then you're going that way, and then you're going this way, and you're going that way. You have to, at some point, just lock into it, have faith, and trust the process, And if the process doesn't end up panning out, then that's not invaluable either, because then one way or the other, you're going to know it either worked or it didn't work. But if you give something its time, right, and you can, after that time, you gave it its time, and it ran its course, and you come to that end point and it didn't work, well, then that's also super valuable, because not to do that shit again. Kelsey Lynn Fit asks, what daily supplements do you recommend as a non-negotiable, and why? I think we touched on this in one of the other episodes. But for me, the big ones are going to be supplements that I just simply can't really get from my diet. Like, they're a necessity. It's not a luxury. It's like an actual necessity. If I were to think about three of them, one of them would be a high-quality omega-3 fish oil supplement. And when I say high quality, I don't just mean like purified and that it's free of mercury and like all that stuff. For sure, you want it to be free of contaminants and mercury and heavy metals and whatnot, but also that it is a high EPA and DHA content, and those are specific types of fatty acids that are contained within fish oil. And that's one of the ways that you can know if your fish oil is of a high quality. It should have a high amount of EPA and DHA. If it only has a couple milligrams of those things, it's not a high quality fish oil. And I would just generally with fish oil suggest sticking with big name brands and not doing some offshoot Amazon brand. So I'm talking about Carlson's fish oil. I'm talking about Nordic Naturals, Now, Nutricross, Sports Research. Those are all pretty good, reputable brands. So we've got fish oil, vitamin D. So that is something that in modern society, most of us are not getting enough of, because, I'm in the house most of the day, right? It's starting to get nice out, so I'll be out on walks and whatnot, but the majority of the time I'm spent under artificial lighting. And so I'm not getting that sunlight nutrient, the vitamin D. I'm not getting enough of it, right? And if you look at diet, well, most of the vitamin D that you would get from your diet is kind of coming from fortified sources that it's been added to the food, right? So it's kind of, and even at that, you're not going to get enough vitamin D from your diet. So vitamin D would be one of them. And then another one would be magnesium. Magnesium plays a crucial role in so many processes in the body, from your mood to your sleep to your muscle quality, like the suppleness of your muscle, your muscle contractions, the cardiovascular tone that you have can help your arteries and blood vessels to relax. And that's another one that, I'm pretty meticulous about my vegetable and fruit intake and my diet. And magnesium is one that I still can come up pretty short on. It's not something that I really get enough of from my diet. And so that's something that I'm going to supplement. And how do you know if you're getting enough of this stuff in your diet? Well, I would highly suggest that if you really want to get into the weeds with it, that you start tracking your food on Chronometer versus MyFitnessPal, because Chronometer is going to have a much more comprehensive view of your micronutrient intake. You can see in far more detail than like a MyFitnessPal. So, plug in all your food, plug your fruit, plug your vegetables in, and just kind of see where you are consistently coming up short. And that can guide some of your own unique decision-making in regards to non-negotiable supplements for you. The Papa Goku asks, what are your thoughts on a vegan diet? I've done pretty much every diet there is. I've never been full vegan, but I did have a run like years ago, vegetarian, because I thought that was the healthy thing. Like, you would think, yeah, fruits and vegetables, like that's healthy, right? Like that's the healthiest thing that you can do. But in reality, the vegan and vegetarian diets are not optimal. They can be done optimal, maybe not optimal is not the right word. They can be done intelligently, but you really have to be on your P's and Q's, because what it boils down to is that anytime you move yourself to the extreme ends of the nutrition spectrum, whether you are going on a carnivore diet or you're going, super high carb and low fats or low protein, like anytime you move to the extreme end of the nutritional spectrum, it's not going to be optimal, because you are isolating an entire food group, an entire macronutrient. And there are nutrients, there are things in those food groups that you need. And so I think that the vegan and vegetarian diet could be a step up for most people from the typical American diet, for sure. But if you're talking about being optimal for overall health and longevity, if you're talking about being optimal for building muscle, then absolutely not. I don't think that there's any real comparison to a vegan diet or a vegetarian diet to a well-balanced, animal-based diet. Not at all. I think that you will, if you're not on your P's and Q's on a vegan or vegetarian diet, at some point in time, you run that long enough, you will run into issues. Jake Jenkins asks, how do I shred my legs? I cannot get them to pop like I'm seeing in my upper body. So there's 2 points that I would touch on with this. One of them is that if you're not seeing the sort of leanness or definition that you're after, just keep getting leaner. The truth is that most of us will need to lose way more weight, way more body fat than we think to get like that sort of level of detail. That might, for some people, especially guys, that might put your body weight way lower than you're comfortable with it being. So it can be sort of a hit to the ego to be like, man, like I really got to get my body weight this low to be peeled, to have this sort of definition. Yes, that's the biggest part of it. That's number one, I would say. Okay. Now, if you get yourself to where you are super lean and there's nothing to pinch, there's no fat on you, right? And you're still not seeing the level of definition that you're after, what that simply boils down to is you don't have the muscle to have that sort of definition. There's not enough tissue filling up that skin, right? There's not enough dense muscle to produce the look that you're after. So this is something that I'm kind of working on, because I've been very lean at various points, always after the coveted glute striations, right? And although I think that and I've never gotten them, not until recently. I think a part of it was just like, yes, I needed to be leaner, but pretty much everything on my body was I was pretty fucking lean, right? And I just wasn't really seeing that the glute lines like that, but also my glutes weren't really developed enough to press out against the skin to show their detail. It was like a deflated balloon. It was just like loose skin, and the skin's not tight. Well, how do you fix that loose skin? How do you get more detail? Fill that muscle up, right? Put some more clay there, shape that clay, right? After spending some time doing direct glute work and building those glutes up, the next time that I cut down, I saw more glute definition than I ever had before. So in part, yes, get leaner, but also if you're at the point where you're pretty fucking lean and you're just not seeing the detail, it may not be a leanness issue. It might just be you need to get bigger fucking legs issue. You know what I mean? So I know that can be a hard pill to swallow, but that's really the truth of it. Okay, so I'm going to cut it there. I got a couple more, but I'm actually going to save this for the next episode with Joe. If you have any questions, comments, anything you got, you can throw them in the comment section down below, and we can roll those into the next Q&A. And of course, reach out to me on Instagram if you're interested in coaching. I also throw up the Q&A questions every Tuesday or Wednesday on my IG, so look out for that. Thanks for watching. See you on the next one.